What's the risk of us asking a third party to do this service or provide this product? Doesn't matter what third party it is, it's just what's the risk of us giving this part of our business to someone else? And then you go through a level of understanding that element of risk. And then I suppose there's a due diligence sense, which is we found someone we think will provide this product and service to us for a fair value. Are they the right partner for us? And then it starts on a different kind of assessment, which is, are they financially stable enough? Have they got the right skill sets, the right capability, the right thought leadership and strategy? Is this a mainstream product for them, or are they just doing this on a whim and they'll go back to something else because they sell something that's unrelated? What's your process been in the last couple of years at Arm around doing that initial selection at a vendor perspective? So the inherent risk, what's the associated risk of what we're doing? And then how did you validate the partner was right for you, and what approach did you take? How did you structure it? How did you break it all down into its component parts?
So again, just bringing it back to kind of what are we looking to achieve and why? That's where you've got to start. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of kind of financials and due diligences that you mentioned that you need to do behind it. But I think it's about, if you can understand what you're looking to achieve, there might be plenty of options available to you. And, within any business, you'll always have individuals that already know what that answer is or think that they do. Or it might just be a complete gaping chasm, right? So you've got to start off with somewhere of understanding what are the options available to us to meet that need. Then you're down to kind of what fits that need in the most eloquent way. Then you'll find yourself in a position of the Rolls-Royce versions and the lesser known versions, right?
Affordability, I suppose.
Based on affordability. And, and that changes from every business's perspective due to a whole bunch of external influencing factors, some of which you may or may not be able to control. But then it does come down to things that you mentioned, like financial stability, recommendations. Do they have the due diligence processes within their own organization in order to support and underpin whatever services it is that you're looking to get out of it? And then how do they go about delivering that? Because we know what the outcome is that we want to achieve. And is the route to that outcome going to be really straightforward? Has it been done time and time again? Yeah, tried and tested path, let's go down that route. Or is this brand new? Are we really out there at the frontier trying to do it for a first time? And that's where you come back to the trust element. And again, you've done the research, you've done the due diligence. We know that this is a company that we could work with, but do we want to work with them? Is there going to be too much risk in there? It's the age-old kind of challenge of risk versus reward. And sometimes going down that slightly less known path gives the best reward off the back of it. But you've got to bring it back, as I said, to what are we looking to achieve? What are the outcomes that we want to deliver? Then what are the controlling factors that we have around that, which will be associated with commercials? It might be a value proposition. What is the risk associated with that? And what are the potential rewards to counter those risks?
Where was the appetite in Arm from a risk perspective? From a brand perspective, it felt like Arm was always to the right of that in the more innovative track. Was that true from their suppliers, or was that just them as a company was innovative and they wanted the steady suppliers?
I think Arm took a broader approach to how they manage their suppliers and the risk associated with it. And you would have, yes, your niche players, but also the big players in the same market. And by having bets placed across the table rather than into everything on red, I think they had a nice little balance there where you can diversify across your supply base. But that in itself has a challenge, right? The more suppliers that you've got in your supply base, the more you've got to manage, the more risk that comes from that. And so it's about finding that right balance. And again, bringing it back to what's the overall strategy that you're looking to achieve.
How did you see that play out? Was there a level of, I've seen it play out in terms of some orgs will go, we're going to do in this space, from a sourcing perspective, a dual vendor strategy. We're going to get the 80% that's run by the steady, known brand that's been around forever, but we're going to do a bit of strange stuff with this new visionary organisation that's coming up here, that's just out of startup, sort of scale-up mentality, just to see how that balances out. So we kind of don't put everything on red or black. You're kind of hedging a little bit just to see where you get to. Was that your experience of strategy at all in Arm or any other organisation you've worked with?
So at the point that I joined Arm, there was very little in terms of standard procurement policies. Pretty much everybody went and bought what they wanted when they wanted. And there was a team of kind of good procurement professionals that were entirely IT focused. And over a period of time, the business started to understand that actually we need to have a standard way of doing this. We need to engage our suppliers in a common way, not just going and buying the next thing that Joe Bloggs wants just because he's got the kind of the money to do it. And so by putting in more of a standard approach, your fundamentals, your best practices, your policies, your guidelines, all the rest of it, then you can slowly start to course navigate towards a more consistent way of doing it. Then we can start to put in place those kind of buying principles that we want. What are the values that we want to achieve from our supply base? Where do we want to diversify in our supply base? Where do we want to reach out to kind of smaller niche players? Where do we just want to go with economies of scale and go with the biggest just because that's kind of the tried and tested and we know that the price will be about right. Everybody gets it from the same price point. So it's about balance. It's about trying to put the bits of your outsourced capability into good hands where you need to, where you know that actually those economies of scale are going to help you out, but also bringing in those niche players that can add that spark, that innovation, hey, why haven't you thought about doing it this way? And that's what drives a company like Arm to be more innovative. We're only as good as the suppliers that we choose to work with, in my humble view.
To keep up with the latest Brooklyn vendor assurance news, subscribe here and follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter. Links in the description below.